Hi, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hi, everyone. Okay, let's make sure my sound is working. Hello, hello. All right, I wasn't planning on doing another live so soon, but then I saw this. It was tweeted by Baroness Brooke. Thank you very much. Shout out to Baroness Brooke on Twitter. Wow, this is an excerpt from a new book by Valentine Low. Now, we all know Harry's about to come out with a bombshell book where he's going to be trashing the royal family. Well, I think this is a preemptive strike. Wait till you see the more details that have come out. It challenges Bauer's book. I've got to tell you the details here of what went on behind the scenes, particularly with Meghan's bullying of staff. So it's a bit long, bear with me, but I want to read through this. It's important because Meghan hates that we talk about this. Oh, she hates it. This is her Achilles heel. This is the one thing she can't blather her way out of. As she bullies people, calling them racist and getting them fired from their jobs, which I covered in a video earlier, now we see her firsthand accounts of what a bully she is, which we already know, right? But she tries to deny this. She gets people fired from their jobs and harasses them behind the scenes and gets them deplatformed from Twitter and YouTube. And now her staff stories are coming out. Harry, Meghan, and it's not just Meghan, it's Meghan and Harry. Very interesting. Prince Harry is looking nervous. He is in a hotel in Malawi at the end of the first of a 3-day visit there as part of his and Meghan's 2019 tour of Southern Africa. He's got to tell the Queen that he and Meghan are about to detonate a bomb under what he has until then been a very successful autumn tour, and he's not looking forward to the prospect. In 2 days' time, Harry and Meghan will release an explosive announcement that Meghan is going to sue the Mail on Sunday over an article it published revealing the contents of a letter she wrote to her father. Harry will also publish a statement on his own, in which he will condemn the media and accuse the tabloids of waging a, quote, ruthless campaign against Meghan, vilifying her on a daily basis. The media's behavior, he will say, destroys people and destroys lives. But first, he has to make that phone call. So already we know that lawsuit with her letter was a joke. Meghan wrote that letter knowing people would read it. She wanted people to read it. She wanted that release, and even Scooby-Doo admitted to that. So the whole thing, I mean, they strategized. They're like they were acting like politicians from day one. They're lying and accusing other people of what they're doing while they wage these lawsuits for frivolous, reasons, and they continue to do so. I mean, this is all intentional from day one. They have been a wrecking ball. Harry often has an attack of nerves before he has to speak to the Queen. So when he joined his team for drinks at a bar that Sunday evening, he sat there so strung out and nervous that his private secretary, Sam Cohen, told him, quote, "You need to have a beer." Looking back on the saga of Harry and Meghan's alienation from the royal family, there are several moments when the final rifts seemed inevitable. One of those was on this tour, when they not only blew up their relationship with the media, but ignored the guidance of the people who were supposed to advise them. It seems none of the staff accompanying the couple on the tour thought it was a good idea to release the statement. But the Sussexes were determined. They were on their own path and nothing was going to stop them. I think Harry and Meghan were being guided by globalists, Clinton and Obama behind the scenes with all this. Just my opinion. Even before Meghan came on the scene, Harry's grievances with the media, especially the tabloid press, could lead to tensions with his staff. One insider recalls, quote, "He was always messaging, making phone calls. It was nonstop. There were constant battles with the media and expecting the team to be on your side. He was always on Twitter." Oh, this I definitely want to get to. Harry, he was always on Twitter. You then had to be on everything too. Every minor infraction was a big deal. So we're getting this also from Tom Bauer talking about Harry and Meghan get up every morning and they're looking at their cell phones, looking at social media. And we know Harry already admitted he called Jack Dorsey and said, "I think January 6th is going to happen." I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, Harry and Twitter. He's always on Twitter. So if you want to annoy Harry and Meghan, make sure to tweet something. And you can follow me too. I'm on Twitter. Definitely have to retweet this. Harry's enemies were not just the media. Quote, he definitely had a mistrust of the courtiers at Buckingham Palace and his father's palace, said one source. This could lead to tensions with his own team who were based at Kensington Palace. Quote, he would use this phrase the whole time, quote, the palace syndrome. When you won't fight battles that Harry wants, because you have been institutionalized. Giving in to the media was a key symptom of whether you had developed it. So Harry was already mentally diagnosing people even before he left. He's like, oh, you have palace syndrome. That's why you won't defend me, right? And so he goes on with his unconscious bias BS. So you can see already, even before Meghan, Harry is very judgmental and judging other people's mental states here, telling them they're institutionalized because they won't defend him. Oh my goodness. Giving into the media was a key symptom of whether you had developed it. It was a constant test of loyalty. Quote, are you going to protect me, or have you become one of them who won't fight for me? He said it was exhausting. So Harry is always challenging people. He's exhausting people around them, testing their loyalty. Kate often played peacemaker between the two brothers. Not that William and Harry were at loggerheads, they weren't, but they both want to get involved in the same areas, such as conservation, and that could lead to tensions. Harry would also express his frustration at the people working for him. They were holding him back. Some of his advisors spent much of their time talking him down from various things he wanted to do because it would not fit into the big picture of what the three of them, William, Kate, and Harry, were trying to achieve. Compounding Harry's frustration with long-held fear that his time was running out. Oh, this is another one. So we know Harry is always on Twitter, right? Now we see Harry's paranoia about Prince George. Remember Prince George got that megalong tooth, that shark tooth, and somebody complained about it to the country where it came from. So Harry really seems to be paranoid about Prince George getting his time in. So it says, compounding Harry's frustration was a long-held fear that his time was running out, and that once Prince George turned 18, Harry would become irrelevant. Quote, he had this thing where he had a shelf life. He was fixated on this. He would compare himself with his uncle, Prince Andrew, and he would say, quote, I have this time to make this impact because I can, until George turns 18 was the way he was thinking about it. Then I will then I will be the also ran. He was genuinely thinking of it as, I have this platform now for a limited amount of time, and I want to move forward, move forward. His staff assured him that he was a very different person from Prince Andrew, and they told him, you can have impact into your 40s and 50s and even longer, so long as you set the right foundations now. But he never saw that. Harry's obsession with the media, his sense of frustration, mistrust of palace courtiers, and constant loyalty tests of his staff were all there before Meghan. But after Meghan turned up, it got significantly worse. So no sooner was Harry's relationship with Meghan made public in October 2016 than a massive invasion Harry had feared began. Faced with hordes of journalists intent on trawling through every aspect of Meghan's life, Harry became determined to protect his girlfriend. Meghan, meanwhile, told him that if he did not do something about it, she would break off the relationship. A source said, quote, she was saying, if you don't put out a statement confirming I'm your girlfriend, I'm going to break up with you. Harry was in a panic, another source said. He was freaking out, saying she's going to dump me. Harry turned to Jason Knauf, the young American who was recruited by Kensington Palace in 2015 to be the communications secretary for the Cambridges and Prince Harry. His previous role had been running the communications for the crisis-hit Royal Bank of Scotland. He loved working for William and Kate and Harry. Harry phoned Knauf demanding that he put out a statement confirming that Meghan was his girlfriend and condemning the racist and sexist undertones of some media coverage. Meghan wanted public validation that this was a serious relationship. She was convinced that the palace was unwilling to protect her from media intrusion. So this started when she was the girlfriend. She's already given attitude here and playing the victim. She told Harry's staff, quote, "I know how the palace works. I know how this is going to play out. You don't care about the girlfriend." This, however, was just the beginning. Keeping Meghan happy, and by extension, keeping Harry happy, was an ongoing challenge. Harry's staff knew that Meghan was different from other royal girlfriends. She had her own opinions and would let people know what they were. And in spring of 2017, more than 6 months before the couple were engaged, she told one of Harry's advisors, quote, "I think we both know I'm going to be one of your bosses soon." Can you imagine saying that to a future advisor of your boyfriend? "I think we both know I'm gonna be one of your bosses soon." I mean, she had an attitude right from the beginning. This is when she was just a girlfriend, when it weren't even engaged yet. There was a lot riding on Meghan. The palace knew it could not afford to repeat the mistakes it had made with Princess Diana. Before the wedding, Meghan had a meeting with Miguel Head, William's private secretary, who told her that the palace would do everything they could to help. There was no need to think that she would had to take on her new role in a particular way. Meghan thanked Head and said she wanted to concentrate on her. Oh, this is what she told him. Okay, right. So she's still the girlfriend here, and she goes, she wants to concentrate on her humanitarian and philanthropic work and to support Harry as a member of the royal family. Lies, lies, lies. Yeah. What humanitarian philanthropic work has that bitch done? Nothing. And to support Harry, no, I think it's quite the opposite. As one source said, quote, "The entire place, because of everything about her and because of what Harry's previous girlfriends had been through, were bending over backwards to make sure that every option was open." Sir David Manning, former ambassador to the US, who was William and Harry's foreign affairs advisor, also put his mind to thinking how Meghan fit in with the royal family and what married life could look like for them. However, the couple's sense of frustration and their suspicion, because Harry's paranoid, as Lady Celia says, of the palace establishment was already causing problems. An early issue was security. Security. In the immediate period after her arrival in London, there was no straightforward mechanism for providing Meghan with full-time police protection, especially at a time when the palace was trying to slim down the level of security provided to members of the royal family. So that's Harry with his private secretary, Elaine Fox. Such matters were decided by Home Office committee called RAVEC, RAVEC, and that came up in Harry's lawsuit against the police recently. The Executive Committee for the Protection of Royalty and Public Figures. Harry's private secretary at the time, Edward Lane Fox, former captain of the Blues and Royals, who joined Harry's close-knit team in 2013, argued Meghan needed to be protected immediately. Ed had to wage a huge battle to get them to understand that she would not be able to live her life without police protection. So Meghan's paranoid too. She always feels like she has to have police protection for some reason. Well, she probably does really need it now because everybody knows what a witch, globalist witch she is. Meghan had no idea that this was even happening because we did not want her to have another reason to think she wasn't going to be welcomed. Ed did amazing things for her behind the scenes, but none of them were appreciated. Harry and Meghan, the 2 months that it took to get a decision about her security seemed like an age. They felt as if the powers that be were simply unwilling to provide her with the security she needed. At this time, at the Queen's request, the Lord Chamberlain Earl Peel, the most senior figure in the household, went to see the couple to explain to Meghan how the palace worked. He recalled, quote, "I liked her, actually. She was very forthright, very, very polite, very understanding. She wanted to learn." Yeah, so this is what she's putting on her act in the beginning. "Oh, I'm here to do humanitarian deeds and support Harry." Support herself is all she's after. However, relations with Meghan and the team at Kensington Palace were fraying fast. In late 2017, after the couple's engagement was announced, a senior aide discreetly raised with the couple the difficulties caused by their treatment of staff. Here we go with the bullying. People needed to be treated well and with some understanding, even when they were not performing to Harry and Meghan's standards. Yeah, what exactly are Harry and Meghan's standards? Extreme paranoia. Please, those two slobs can't even dress themselves, but they're all full of attacks on other people. They suggested Meghan was said to have replied, quote, "It's not my job to coddle people." Like anyone would go to Meghan to get cuddled. She is such a witch. See, that's what a nasty witch says when they're verbally and mentally and emotionally abusive. Oh, it's not my job to cuddle. It's like, no, you're being an out of control witch. So, anyways, meanwhile, she wasn't dealing with the more junior staff, even people whom William and Kate and Harry, before Meghan came along, had been quite happy to engage with. It seemed that Meghan wanted respect, and having to talk to someone a bit further down the pecking order in a small office where there wasn't much of a pecking order wasn't treating her with respect. Quote, she would take it as an insult, believes one source. So Meghan expected everybody to be like, treat her like a deity, even in the small office where they all work together. If they spoke to her as a regular, she got very offended. Don't you know who I am? And this is Angela Kelly, the Queen's dresser here. So we're gonna get into this story. Organizing, we're getting more details this time now. Organizing the wedding was particularly stressful. There were rows about scheduling, the wedding announcements, the gospel choir, and most famously, the tiara. In the months before the wedding, Meghan was told the Queen would lend her a tiara for the big day, just as she had done for Kate Middleton 7 years earlier. An appointment was made in February for Meghan to look at a short list of appropriate tiaras for Buckingham Palace. Accompanied by Harry and under the watchful eye of Angela Kelly, the Queen's dresser, who is also curator of the Queen's jewelry, Meghan opted for the Queen Mary's diamond bandeau tiara. All right, so Meghan did opt for the tiara that she chose. It wasn't the green one. But then Meghan does something bizarre. She claims that she needs a hair trial day. The most ridiculous thing, and Meghan caused all this trouble with this idea that she had to have this priceless tiara with her hairdresser just to make sure her fake hair looks okay with it or something. So this set off a whole chain of abusive events with Meghan and Harry. So here we go. Meghan then needed to, okay, according to Meghan, she needed to make sure her hairdresser had an opportunity to rehearse with it before the day itself. So Meghan's saying that her and her hairdresser need time alone with this priceless tiara, right? Now it was priceless, but it's an heirloom, right? So she's claiming her and the hairdresser need to play with it alone. Like as if they're just going to hand it out to them, like, oh yeah, here, take it, go with your hairdresser. It's like, no, you and your hairdresser could use something else, a regular headband or something, and figure it out. Because when you see how Meghan wears her hair, she just wears her hair flat anyways, and most of her hair is fake anyhow. And so it's so ridiculous. So Meghan makes up this whole thing that she has to have this heirloom tiara for her and her hairdresser. Unfortunately, on the day that her hairdresser, Sergey Normant, was in town, Angela Kelly was not available. So neither was the tiara. In Harry's view, this was Kelly being obstructive. See, now you see how Meghan sets Harry off with this? Meghan makes a ridiculous notion in her head about a ridiculous demand. I want it now. I want my tiara now, right? So she thinks it's hers now or something. And then they don't go through the proper channels, and Harry starts throwing a hissy fit. And it's all Meghan's fault with her ridiculous demands here. And he starts calling Angela Kelly obstructive. According to the book Finding Freebies, Kelly had ignored repeated requests from Kensington Palace to set up a date for a hair trial. Okay, so Omid Scobie accused the Queen's hairdresser here of refusing to set up a date for the hair trial. That's what Omid Scobie and Carolyn Duran say, but we all know they're full of lies anyways. And we all know Meghan wrote that book, Finding Freedom. So Meghan's making a false accusation through Omid here. And Harry was furious. Nothing could convince Harry that some of the old guard at the palace simply didn't like Meghan and would stop at nothing to make her life difficult, wrote the book's authors. So yeah, so Meghan accused them of making her life difficult, getting Harry wound up, and it's all Meghan, all caused by Meghan. And there is another version that Harry and Meghan were naive at best and entitled at worst to expect others to jump up to their command, even when they had not bothered to make an appointment. As a source told the Mail on Sunday, quote, Meghan demanded access to the tiara. She didn't make an appointment with Angela, but said, quote, we're at Buckingham Palace. We want the tiara. Can we have it now, please? Angela essentially said, I'm very sorry, but that's just not how it works. There's a protocol in place for the jewels. They're kept under very tight lock and key. You can't turn up and demand to have a tiara just because your hairdresser happens to be in town. Right. There's that famous picture of the Queen looking at Meghan with that scowl on her face. Oh, she hated her. Everybody hates Meghan. And look at Meghan's hair. Like it's what do you need a hair trial for? You know, she wears her hair flat down, like just put the tiara on top, and it's like ridiculous. This whole thing was engineered a ridiculous situation, engineered by Meghan to cause trouble and stir up Harry. I mean, wow, what a shizzle stir this witch is! What a manipulative witch she is! She's so nasty, and we haven't even gotten to the bullying yet. I mean, it was the beginning of the bullying because Harry then began ringing others to put pressure on Kelly to bend the rules. And in the course of his less than diplomatic efforts, it's said that he used some fairly fruity language. Whether Harry swore at his grandmother's aid or about her, it's not clear. So Harry either swore at Angela Kelly or about her. That's how nasty Harry got with this elderly woman. See, they abuse elderly people, Harry and Meghan. But she wasn't impressed, and she reported it all to the Queen, who summoned Harry in a private meeting. Quote, he was firmly put in his place, a source said. He had been downright rude. At around the same time, Meghan spoke particularly harshly at a meeting of a young female member of the team in front of her colleagues. After Meghan had pulled to shreds a plan that she had drawn up, the woman told Meghan how hard it would be to implement a new one. Quote, Meghan said, don't worry. If there was literally anyone else I could ask to do this, I would be asking them instead of you. So, wow, Meghan's such a biatch. Oh, my God. Later, Prince William, who had heard some of the treatment that she had been subjected to, came to find the woman, quote, I hope you're okay, he told her. You're doing a great job. And she promptly burst into tears. On another occasion, when Meghan felt that she had been let down over an issue that was worrying her, she rang repeatedly when the staffer was out to dinner on a Friday night. Quote, every 10 minutes, I had to go outside to be screamed at by Harry and Meghan. I can't believe you've done this. You've let me down. What were you thinking? It went on for a couple of hours. The calls started again the next morning and continued for days, the staffer said. You could not escape them. There were no lines or boundaries. It was the last thing at night and then the first thing in the morning. Okay, so this is more than just Meghan calling them up at 5 o'clock in the morning, which she did too, 5 o'clock in the morning. They're calling this poor guy up or poor woman up every 10 minutes while he's out to dinner just to say, I can't believe you've done this. You've let me down. What were you thinking? I mean, this is her and Harry. So Harry and Meghan were just picking up the phone like a couple of children and screaming at these people. Relations between the couple and some of their senior staff became so fractious that Miguel had to step in to keep the peace. Ed Lane Fox never planned to stay much longer than 5 years working for Harry. A few days after the wedding, Buckingham Palace announced that Samantha Cohen, the Queen's former assistant private secretary, would be stepping in to help the couple out for 6 months as their interim private secretary. Cohen, then aged 49, had already handed in her notice at Buckingham Palace, but just as she was preparing to leave, after 17 years, the Queen, who had high regard for her, asked her to stay on and help Harry and Meghan. Cohen, everyone calls her Sam, was one of the most popular and well-regarded members of the Queen's household. And there's Sam Cohen behind Meghan when her hair is a mess. Harry knew her well already, as did William, and was very fond of her. The feeling was reciprocated. Cohen was determined to make her new job work. Harry was initially very enthusiastic, said a source, but Cohen soon discovered that making Harry and Meghan happy was a bigger challenge than she had anticipated. In autumn of 2018, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex undertook their first official overseas trip to Australia, Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand. Jason Knauf did not join them because he had recently broken his collarbone. Knauf had been growing increasingly concerned about how staff were being treated by Meghan and Harry, too. The issue had been brought into focus by the departure of Meghan's personal assistant, Melissa Tuapti, just 6 months after joining the palace. Tuapti, who was the second PA to leave after Meghan's arrival, was a 39-year-old French woman who had previously worked for Robbie Williams and his wife, Ida Field. After she left, the palace source paid tribute to Tuapti's talents and in an agreed statement with Tuapti. A week later, the Sunday Mirror reported how Meghan had reduced Tuapti to tears. A source told the paper, quote, her job was highly pressurized, and in the end, it became too much. She put up with quite a lot. Meghan put a lot of demands on her, and it ended up with her in tears. Melissa is a total professional and fantastic at her job, but things came to a head and it was easier for them to both go their separate ways. Since then, palace sources have said the clashes between Meghan and Tuapti centered on free gifts that some companies would send to Meghan. Deliveries were constantly arriving at Kensington Palace. Clothes, jewels, candles. It was absolutely nonstop, said a source. Tuapti was apparently punctilious in following the household rule that members of the royal family cannot accept freebies from commercial organizations. Her approach did not go down well with Meghan. Oh no, Meghan is the queen of freebies. Are you kidding me? Oh my goodness, that should be her real title, the queen of freebies, the queen of merch there. She loves what do they call those grab bags they have in Hollywood and they give you that free stuff? She loves that. Yeah, unbelievable. So that's what got Meghan so angry at Tuapti because she didn't give her free stuff. As one source said, there were a lot of broken people. Young women were broken because of their behavior. One member of staff, they said, was completely destroyed. Another staffer who had been having a rough time told a colleague they were considering resigning and that the couple were, quote, outrageous bullies, adding, quote, I will never trust or like them again, but have made peace with that. The colleague replied, they're so dreadful and they are bullies. Yeah, promotional bags. I think there's another word for it besides promotional bags. You know what they call that again? It's kind of a I don't know. I can't think of it. Anyways, it'll come to me later, maybe. But they are. So everybody's saying they're bullies. Multiple witnesses here saying they were bullies. The harsh treatment was not confined to junior staff. One source said that Samantha Cohen had been bullied. Another said, quote, they treated her terribly. Nothing was ever good enough. It was, she doesn't understand. She's failing. In fact, the source said Cohen was a saint and the best organizer of royal tours they had known. Swag bag, that's it. Thank you, swag. Meghan's the Duchess of Swag. That's what she is. The Princess Swag. That's it. Thank you. That's I was trying to think of what that word was. Swag. That's it. And she's all about the swag. They were sending her swag away. She couldn't handle it. She blew up. In February 2021, the Duchess's lawyer denied that Cohen had been bullied Okay, so now we come up. Now remember that documentary that had nothing to do with Megan, but her lawyer pops in and says, "Oh, Megan's not a bully, right? She doth protest too much, methinks." So February 2021, the Duchess's lawyer denied that Cohen had been bullied, saying the couple were always grateful for her support and dedication. Quote, "She remains very close with the Duke and Duchess." On October 26, 2018, just as Harry and Meghan were flying from Tonga to Sydney for the Invictus Games, Knauf wrote an email to his immediate boss, Simon Case, Prince William's private secretary, saying that he had spoken to the head of HR for the palace about some serious problems concerning Meghan's behavior. He wrote, quote, "I'm very concerned that the Duchess was able to bully two PAs out of the household in the past year. The Duchess seems intent on always having someone in her sights. She is bullying X, name withheld, and seeking to undermine her confidence. We have had report after report from people who have witnessed unacceptable behavior towards X, despite the universal views from her colleagues that she is a leading talent within the household who is delivering first rate work." Harry and Meghan are a nightmare. Knauf, who was in daily contact. So now it's a good thing Knauf is American because, they brought this up saying, well, it's just a cultural clash. Remember that came out? It's a culture clash. Meghan's just very direct. You don't understand. But Knauf, of course, is American. So that works in his favor to point out, no, he's announcing, yeah, she's a bully. So Knauf, who was in daily contact with the staff on tour, went on to say that the tour was very challenging and was made worse by the behavior of the Duchess. He also expressed concerns about his own standing and suggested that even Samantha Cohen could be struggling to cope. I asked Sam Carruthers, the head of HR, what would happen if the Duchess turned on me next, as seems possible given her behavior in recent weeks, he wrote. I asked what would be done to make sure Sam Cohen feels supported. I raised the very real possibility that she could be struggling with severe stress and could have to walk away from her position. Knauf concluded by saying that Carruthers agreed with me on all counts that the situation was very serious. He added, I remain concerned that nothing will be done. It can be hard to define exactly when a particular behavior amounts to bullying. As Jenna Afia, the solicitor who later represented the Duchess in her actions against the Mail on Sunday, put it, what bullying actually means is improperly using power repeatedly and deliberately to hurt someone physically or emotionally. The Duchess of Sussex absolutely denies ever doing that. Knowing her as I do, this is her lawyer talking. Knowing her as I do, I can't believe she would ever do that. It just doesn't match my experience with her at all. Yeah, of course. Megan's not going to bully her lawyer or she does her stuff. So ridiculous. So ridiculous. It's so absurd to even have her lawyer come out and say this. It's like so lame because Megan has nobody that would stand up for that would defend her because she's in the wrong. That's the problem, Megan, there's nobody. Everyone knows Megan was a bully. There was, however, no doubt that Megan could be a demanding boss. There were a number of people, allegedly including Harry himself, who suggested that the problems were partly due to cultural differences or in management style. Omid Scobie, the lying, and Carolyn Durand from Finding Freebies said, quote, Americans can be much more direct, and that often doesn't sit well with the more refined institution of the monarchy. However, Jason Knauf, the person who made the bullying allegation, is also American. Insider, see how that slick Omid and Megan think and Carolyn Durand think they are with their lies. They're such politicians. I'm telling you, she's getting help from the globe. This is like all coordinated. Insider said this was more about than just Megan's American straight talking. Yeah, it's American's nasty witchiness. She's evil, man. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan were going down a storm on the tour, massive crowds turning out to see them, and Meghan's refreshingly and informal approach to royal visits was proving a hit with the Australian public. When she turned up at the home of a farming family, she brought some banana bread that she herself had baked, which of course we know she didn't. She had the staff bake like 10 different loaves before she found one that she liked, right? He didn't mention that in this. And the couple visited a school to see the work of a program to improve the educational outcomes of young Aboriginals. She was feted as an inspirational role model. Behind the scenes, it was a very different story. Although she enjoyed the attention, Megan failed to understand the point of all those walkabouts, shaking hands with countless strangers. According to several staff members, Megan was heard to say on at least one occasion, quote, "I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this." You imagine this bitch marries into the royal family. She's a freaking trillionaire, and she's complaining that she's not getting paid for shaking hands. Living the life of luxury as unbelievable. She wants to be paid on top of it. I mean, how dumb could she be? One member of the tour party, more sympathetic than most to Meghan, said, quote, "I think Sam was trying to work out what was this office going to look like after Meghan had arrived. Meghan wanted to bring in her people rather than turn to the traditional Buckingham Palace people." Yeah, so Meghan here wanting to support her husband and wanting to, be a team player, join the team. She's saying she's trying to get rid of the Buckingham Palace staff and bring in her own staff because she still had her people around her, PR people. Oh my goodness. So it's obvious that she was never planning to stay and that she made no effort, little to no effort to fit in with the royal family. And she was a nightmare bully. Um, my impression was that it was proving very, very difficult to hold this together. In the middle of all that, not only are they newly married, but you've got a very big tour to do, and Megan's pregnant. Yeah, when Megan feels threatened or feels like she's getting bad publicity, suddenly she claims to be pregnant. It seems to be like a reaction. So it was certainly clear that there were lots of pressures. More than once, the staff felt that they were treated harshly. On the journey from Tonga to Sydney, Sam Cohen was said to have had a particularly torrid time of it, according to one source. Quote, "Sam had been screamed at before the flight and during. After that, she warned other staff to stay away from Harry and Meghan for the rest of the day." Can you imagine sitting there getting screamed at by Harry and Meghan? That evening, her colleagues tried to arrange matters so that she did not have to see Harry and Meghan any more than was strictly necessary. "It was so horrible to see yesterday," one said the next day, according to one source. David Manning, who was always a reassuring presence on tours, would say, quote, "You are dealing with a very difficult lady." So even other people who were not even were witnessing Megan's behavior, and everybody's saying what a witch she was, basically, what a bully and a witch. The effect of Megan's behavior was perhaps seen in its starkest terms sometime after Knauf wrote his email to Simon Case. Harry had heard about the complaints and had tried to persuade Knauf to make it go away, something denied by the Sussex's lawyers. One member of staff, who was named by Knauf in the email, was due to work with Meghan the next day and was worried that she would find out about the complaints. That's quote, "That's why I felt sick," they said. "I don't want to have to get into the car with her tomorrow morning. She'll blame me for it, which will make tomorrow absolutely horrific." Okay, now we get to Megan's. Remember that obnoxious appearance where she's hugging her belly bump on stage at the BAFTA Awards that she wasn't even supposed to be at, wearing black? They go into how Megan didn't even tell the head of communications, Jason Knapp, that she was doing it. She just went and did it without telling anyone. This is Miss Team Player, right? In the months after the South Pacific tour, the relationship between Jason Knauf and Harry and Meghan was effectively over. Even though Knauf was still officially in charge of their media operation, in December, Meghan, wearing a black one-shoulder Givenchy dress, made a surprise appearance at the British Fashion Awards at the Royal Albert Hall, where she presented an award to Claire Waite Keller, who had designed her wedding dress. Knauf had no idea it was happening until Meghan was on stage. Meghan had refused to let Sam Cohen or her private secretary, Amy Pickerel, to tell him what was happening. So Meghan went against Buckingham Palace and their staff. She told her assistants, "Don't you tell anyone what I'm doing." And she goes off and gets on stage and does that obnoxious performance, hugging this huge fake belly bump on stage at the BAFTA Awards. I mean, how ridiculous, right? A month after Knauf sent his bullying allegations to Simon Case, he handed in his notice. He was instead taken on by William and Kate as a special advisor and later became chief executive of the couple's charitable body, the Royal Foundation. The bullying allegations, meanwhile, accelerated a major shakeup at Kensington Palace and Harry and Meghan splitting their households from William and Kate. So you remember that happened too. They had to split their households because Harry and Meghan were so obnoxious. The hiring of a new communications secretary for the Sussexes in early 2019 was part of the process. First, however, decisions had to be made about what that household would look like and where it would be based. The palace wanted to set them up with an office at Buckingham Palace. Harry and Meghan wanted their own arrangement, probably at Windsor Castle near their new home in Frogmore Cottage. If they were stuck at Buckingham Palace, subservient to the whole palace machine, they would be no better off than the other lesser royals, such as the Duke of York or the Countess of Wessex. But there was no way that the palace would fund the establishment of a separate satellite operation. It was a decision by the Queen and the Prince of Wales, both of whom were keenly aware of the need to avoid unnecessary extravagance. The Sussexes did at least get a big team, including a private secretary. Okay, so here's the team they had. They had a private secretary, two assistant private secretaries, a communications secretary, two other communications officers, as well, on top of all that, administrative staff. All for Harry and Meghan. And nothing was ever done right for them, apparently, with all the staff. Sarah Latham, a dual U.S. British citizen with a bright smile and seemingly boundless energy, was the PR big hitter who was going to be in charge of communications. Then a managing partner at the Freud's PR agency, she had a wealth of experience, having been senior advisor on Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign. Right? There's the Clinton connection again. Hillary Clinton visits Meghan and she hires Hillary Clinton's advisor. Sarah was a very experienced and worked what was needed, wrote one source. She was capable of telling truth to power and being honest. Meanwhile, Cohen was clearly delighted to be getting out soon, a source said. Sam always made it clear that it was like working for a couple of teenagers. They were impossible and pushed her to the limit. She was miserable. So now I know Sam Cohen was miserable working for them. Cohen was, quote, at her wit's end. So don't forget, Sam Cohen is a favorite of the Queen, or was the favorite of the Queen, right, with the royal family for almost 2 decades. She was exhausted and had stayed on with the Sussexes for longer than she originally planned and felt isolated from the rest of the royal hierarchy now that she was no longer the Queen's private office. She was constantly having to battle on Harry and Meghan's behalf while taking all this abuse from them. Can you imagine? You got to take all this abuse from them and turn around and try to stick up for them with the royal family? You know you don't want to. These two don't deserve it. She also found herself getting far more involved in arranging their personal lives than would be normally appropriate for a private secretary who, despite the job title, is there to look after your official lives. Yeah, so Meghan was inappropriate in asking for them to do things that were not their job description. So again, that is a form of bullying abuse, to be asking someone whose job is a certain thing and for you to say, let's do this for me and that, do my personal errands while you're at it. That's inappropriate. That's abusive. That is abusive. Her replacement was Fiona McIlwem, who had become one of the youngest British ambassadors in history. She was appointed to Albania in 2009 at 35. At first, Latham and Meghan were a good combination, she told a friend. Quote, I love this job. It's amazing. Latham would go around for lunch with the Duchess at Frogmore, talk things over. Latham thought she understood Meghan, who believed that the press hated her and that she was the victim of racism in the media. The way Latham saw it, Meghan was an American, was a victim of cultural differences rather than racism. What she needed was someone to hold her hand and help her navigate the way through the minefield. It did not take long for the shine to wear off. There was a series of battles with the media that spring and summer. First came Meghan's lavish baby shower in New York. Then Archie was due in May, and Meghan was determined to avoid the quote indignity of a royal birth with journalists camped outside the hospital. Oh no. The palace put out a statement saying that the Duchess had gone into labor, only for it to emerge later that she had in fact given birth some 8 hours before. Remember that whole fiasco, that whole joke, that charade? I mean, that's an example of, being just being a globalist. uh Megan was showing her power there. Like, I'll tell you whatever I want. Maybe I had the baby yesterday. Maybe we all know she didn't have a baby at all. We know that witch has never been pregnant. But the fact that she was playing with the major, and that was with the world's media. It wasn't just the royal rota, right? Everybody, journalists flew in from around the world to get that first picture of her and the baby, and Megan wouldn't do it. She just didn't. She's making up times. The whole thing was so. Megan was just really yanking everyone's chain with this. She was again using the alleged pregnancy, as a power, a way of, like, of manipulating everyone, and being a witch and a bully. In the summer, the couple's taste for private jet travel brought them further criticism after Harry gave an address about the need to save the environment at a Google camp being held in Sicily, and then flying back on private jet provided by Google with Leonardo DiCaprio. You love how they all take their private jets everywhere, but they want us to talk about climate change and everything and how bad it is. He and Meghan took 4 flights on private jets in less than a week to visit Ibiza in the south of France. This prompted rows with Sarah Latham, who had advised Harry against taking private jets. So there's Meghan with Amy Pickerel, right? You can see what a witch. And we all saw with that video when Meghan was on her walkabout for the Queen there, what a witch Meghan was to the staff, the one staff member that approached her there trying to get the flowers from her. Relations between the couple and Latham were increasingly tense. Close colleagues began to wonder how long Latham would want to stick around. At the back of their minds was the feeling that anyone leaving the Sussex team would be best advised to think of a good excuse. Meghan did not like it if she thought it was about her. Next to go was Meghan's assistant private secretary, Amy Pickerel. At the time, sources said the departure, described by Meghan as, quote, very sad, was amicable. In fact, when Meghan learnt that Pickerel had handed in her notice, she was so angry that she refused to let Pickerel travel with her in the car to avoid to an official engagement in London that morning. So Meghan heard, so Meghan bullies these people out, and then when they give in their notice, Meghan punishes the woman with not even letting her ride in the car with her. I mean, what a nasty witch Meghan is! Oh my goodness, she makes the Devil Wear Prada, movie about Anna Wintour seem like she was a saint. By August 2016, things were awful and tense. By August 2019, things were awful and tense with the Sussex household. There were also clues that Harry and Meghan did not see their long-term future as working members of the royal family. Their Africa tour was coming up, but there was nothing in the diary after that. Meanwhile, staff were increasingly aware of the presence in the background of Meghan's business manager, Andrew Meyer, and her lawyer, Rick Janot, as well as her agent, Nick Collins, and Kaylee Thomas Morgan of Sunshine Sachs. The U.S. team had been very busy working on deals not only with Netflix, but also a deal for Harry's mental health series for Apple, and Oprah Winfrey and Meghan's voiceovers for Disney, a film about elephants. Yeah, that awful voiceover she did. While preparing for the Africa tour, the team was trying to persuade the couple that it would be appropriate to do an interview on British media. Sam Cohen suggested Tom Bradby of ITV, who already had a relationship with Harry. Meghan was reluctant at first. Her attention was focused on the prospect of doing an interview with Oprah Winfrey. After thinking about it, however, Harry said they would agree, but there was one proviso. He and Meghan could not do the interview together or be in the same shot. That would go against their deal with Oprah, which at that point was slated for the autumn of that year. It eventually went out more than a year later in March 2021. The first real intimation the public had that all was not well in Meghan's world came in October 2019 when ITV released a trailer for its documentary Harry, Meghan, An African Journey. And as Meghan spoke to Tom Bradbury in a garden in Johannesburg, she spoke about how she struggled with life and in the spotlight as a newlywed and a new mother, almost as if she were trying to hold back tears. She said she found it hard. And also, thank you for asking because not many people have asked if I'm okay. It's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes. Man, she's so gross. The trailer came out while William and Kate were on tour in Pakistan. The resulting coverage inevitably overshadowed reporting of the last days of the Cambridge's tour. The Cambridge team was not happy and saw it as a deliberate attempt to knock the Cambridges out of the headlines. Relations between the two households became quite tense. When the documentary came out, it also showed how far Harry and William had drifted apart. Asked by Bradbury about the rift between them, Harry chose not to deny it, but said instead, "We are certainly on different paths at the moment, but I will always be there for him, as I know he will always be there for me." William, back home after the Pakistan tour, appears to have been taken aback at such a stark portrayal of his brother and sister-in-law's unhappiness. He realized they were in crisis. The day after the documentary aired, William WhatsApped his brother to ask if he could come to see him. This put Harry and Meghan in a spin. What should they do? Initially, Harry was in favor. Then he spoke to his brother again and asked who he would tell, and William explained that he would have to clear his schedule, so that would mean telling his private secretary. At that point, Harry said, "Don't come." He was so concerned that William's team would leak the information to the press that he would rather they do not come than risk it getting into the papers. So Harry's telling his brother, "Don't come if the paper's going to find out about it. I don't want to see you." I mean, yeah, what an idiot. It highlighted once again the dysfunction at the heart of so many royal relationships and that members of the royal family so rarely pick up the phone and speak to each other directly. Just 5 months later, Harry and Meghan would step down as working members of the royal family. So this is an edited extract of Courtiers, A Hidden Power Behind the Crown by Valentine Low, coming out October 6th. So yeah, so woo, we're getting a lot more details here about Meghan's bullying and the fact that Harry's on Twitter all the time, and Meghan was nasty, and she didn't even tell. She was so uncooperative, and she sprung up at this fashion awards and surprised the communications team with it. She actually purposely hid it from the head of communications. I mean, Meghan was pulling all kinds of dirty tricks and schemes and just to upsetting the staff there and abusing and berating the staff. I mean, Meghan was a nightmare from day one. And you can't tell me that wasn't on purpose. I think the witch came in, she wanted to create all this drama and harassing and attacking everyone so that she could claim that they were racist and she had to leave, right? So I'm thinking also that this book with the details coming out about her bullying that Meghan cannot deny. It's so obvious. I mean, we saw this when we saw the staff leaving every few months. We knew what was going on. It was pretty obvious. So I think this book by Valentine coming out may be another reaction to Harry's book coming out, right? Because Harry's got his book coming out. So I think this might be sort of setting the record straight before Harry can come out. And it sets the stage for what a crybaby, spoiled brat, obnoxious jerk Harry and Meghan are. And there's like a long list of people and witnesses that just goes on and on that you can see. It wasn't just one or two staff members. I mean, it's like everybody witnessed this, including the Harry even abused and swore at the Queen's assistant there, her dresser there, Angela Kelly, an old woman. So if Harry would swear at her, you can imagine how Harry treated the staff under him, right? And Meghan. So the two of them are extremely, extraordinarily abusive. So, anyways, I want to look at how Meghan feels about this book coming out because I think that this book is going to blow her cover big time. Meghan really hates the people bringing up her bullying, which is why I wanted to read that. She really hates people talking about this is kryptonite for Megan. This is the one topic Megan knows that she cannot BS her way out of. And I'm going to be using the Jack-o'-lantern tarot. And we got to look at Megan's reaction to this book and what she's going to do about it. Because I think this book may even be more powerful than Bowers and knocking her down. Bowers did a pretty good job of exposing her. So let's find out. I've already shuffled the cards. Let's take a look here. How's Megan feeling about this Valentine book coming out? Her and Harry are just, ready to release their own book and try to destroy the royal family as much as possible. They're so destructive. So let's see. How's Megan feeling about this Valentine book with all the details about her bullying coming out? Let's see. Is Megan freaking out or what? And what's she going to do about it? What's her general attitude? Four of Wands. Well, stability, the family here, the wedding, big feast of PR, and ooh, a Three of Wands reversed. Being destructive. See, Three of Wands reversed as trying to be destructive too. I'd say the royal family here. I would see Four of Wands. It's a family unit. It's stability. So Megan's bracing herself. She knew this was coming. I mean, that the bullying accusations are not new to her. But as far as the media goes, I think that part of her tactic is to be bombarding the media with all kinds of fluff stories, like the one about Harry allegedly finding out about the Queen's death from, online sources or something, which is ridiculous. So Megan's like bracing for this, but this is what Megan does too. So she kind of enjoys it as well. So I don't see her being, I get the star at the bottom of it. So, Megan loves again, she loves attention. So whether it's positive or negative, whether she's the good guy or the bad guy, this is like fuel for her. She's a narcissist, and any kind of fuel is something she enjoys, even if it's negative. Everybody's talking about her, and that's what she loves. So I do see that Wands and Wands, this is like just a challenge for her and her PR, and she's such a control freak with the PR. Kind of like the way the World Economic Forum was with that One Young Leader conference, and they changed the whole website to black and white. I mean, it just shows how controlling they are. It's like the Nazis in Germany. They're so exact and controlling about every last detail. So that's the way Harry and Meghan are with their group, their globalist group, Klaus Schwab, right? So Meghan sees this as a challenge, but this is what she's made for. She's made to go to war with people and institutions with the media. This is what she's born to do. She loves it. The base of the situation, Page of Wands, information, lies, coming out with other information. It's a war of information. That's what she's about. So I do see that she is gearing up with her stories and accusations and rumors that I'm sure she's going to spread as much as possible. And of course, she is helping Harry out with this book of doom. What from the past is affecting Meghan as far as these bullying allegations? What affects her the most? Ooh, death reversed. Okay. Now I could see this as the fact that now that the Queen has passed, I see this as the gloves are off, right? So now the Queen is gone. So there's going to be no restraint anymore from William or wherever. Now Charles maybe somewhat, but I do think that, the funeral and the situation and the ceremonies around there and her unpopularity were without a doubt. And so everything's changed now. Her and Harry are not in the same position they were in, in January 2020, right before the pandemic was unleashed on the world. the very different times now, right? People have very little sympathy for them and their alleged plights. You know what I mean? Nobody cares about Harry and Meghan. So yeah, so I think that a lot of things have changed, but still, her bullying is very much something that um, does need to be addressed, and she needs to apologize. And that's another thing about Harry and Meghan; they never apologize for anything, and that just shows their arrogance and their evilness, in my opinion. So, what's Meghan expecting from this book? Let's find out. Fool reverse. Yep, she knows it's going to make her and Harry look like the fools they are. Because really, at the end of the day, people describe them as acting like children or teenagers. Just always throwing a hissy fit and doing foolish things. Megan did do a lot of foolish things, and that fake pregnancy and the uh, circus of a birth of Archie or whatnot, alleged birth of Archie, that whole circus that she did. Um, yeah, she's just out of control. It's exposing it all. So we're getting more behind the scenes look at their abusiveness and their obnoxiousness here. So anyways, what is Megan afraid of or not want? What is she afraid of or not want? Oh, I got 8 of Cups. Reverse. So I take this as she does not like going back over these stories. She turns her back on these things and she doesn't want to deal with it. And she doesn't want to deal with people's feelings. So I get that she doesn't want to hear about it. She doesn't want any sympathy for anyone but herself. Because remember, Megan's story is we fled the palace because of racism. We're the victims. So going back over and talking about, well, wait a minute, what about all these people whose lives you destroyed? Remember when Harry and Meghan surprise announced that they were quitting the palace, right? They fired their whole team of people. They had like what, 10, 20 people, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, we're leaving in a couple of weeks, so you're all out of a job. Goodbye." They were so incensed. They were so nasty, cruel. They just completely acting like nobody else mattered but them, and they couldn't care less how they treat others. So that's why I'm getting Cups here. The emotions, like they don't like. Megan does not want to go back over these stories and hearing about how abusive and how she got so many people upset. She wants to keep this into the media. For Megan, it's a media thing, like the stories that get published, or books. But she's not. She certainly doesn't want to hear from the victims there for sure. Megan is definitely not someone who concerns herself with the victims unless she's posing for pictures in front of tombstones at Uvalde. That's as close as she wants to get to victims. You know what I mean? Women couldn't care less about anyone. So she definitely doesn't want to go over the feelings of people in the past and what she may have done wrong. If she had even the slightest bit of empathy, she could say, well, I'm sorry to the people. They felt that way. I was under a lot of stress. I didn't mean what I said. There's a lot of excuses you could try to come up with, but Megan doesn't even try. She doesn't even try. She just has her lawyer come out and say, oh, Megan a bully? Oh, no, she's never been that way around me. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, Megan's just stupid the way she handled it. Anyways, Megan is just making things worse with the way her and Harry are. Because again, they won't apologize. So what's she hoping for with this book coming out? Oh, justice. See, that's another thing, abusing the court system. I see Megan as she's probably planning this, on scrutinizing this book and seeing what her lawyers can do to, possibly try to sue him for something. Because we already know that Megan is going to court for so many reasons and is continuing to do so with her sister and whatnot. And I don't know if anybody sued Omid Scobie and Carol Durant for anything in their book, but they probably should. There's so many lies in that book. You can't even, it's ridiculous. So I think Megan is probably looking into some kind of trying to come up with some kind of frivolous lawsuit or something against this book or something else to try to distract. So she may try to distract from this book with, some legal lawfare of some sorts. I'll have to wait and see with that. Harry is still in court with the police, I believe, the Met Police. If I'm not mistaken, that's still going on. So I believe it kicks off again in January, if I'm not mistaken. How does Megan see this Valentine book coming out? It's by, what does she think about it? Ooh, 10 of Wands reversed. She's exhausted. She's not impressed. I mean, she's not even going to probably read it. He put a lot of work into this. Obviously, he's spoken to a lot of people. So many books out there, so many things going on. I think Megan's overwhelmed. And so obviously she's not going to probably, she will read it. She'll have her lawyers look at it for sure. But I'm kind of getting that Megan has, obviously no respect for the work that goes in the book itself. And she'll probably try to get him, if she could, she'd probably try to get him fired. Ten of Wands in reverse could be like losing your job somehow, or losing. She might try to cancel culture him if she can, right? Like, that's another tactic that the globalists use, lefties use to try to ruin your life. So he should be careful online, because I'm sure the Sussex Squad will be targeting him if they haven't already. Meghan's weapon of choice, her online trolls. So what's Meghan gonna do next? She's got big plans here. Oh my goodness, the Hierophant. Yeah, I'm getting an Oprah Winfrey vibe with this one. I'm getting that she is gonna try to turn this around and try to play it off as, they're just picking on her 'cause she's a woman, and she's a feminist, and they just can't handle that. And she just has a strong work ethic. Oh, she was just ambitious, and you all are just so racist that you think ambition is a dirty word for women, but no, it's not. So this is what I'm getting here. Like, this could be her, like, talking, trying to say, I'm just an ambitious, hardworking go-getter, and look, they call me a bully and a witch and all this. So she's going to try to twist this around and make it seem like, they're just trying to victimize her because she's just such a proud, you know, uh, feminist and hard worker and direct, American, So yeah, she's really going to try every trick, and she's going to try to make herself out to be, educating them on the error of their ways, So, because Meghan's always right, right? Meghan's always right. Harry and Meghan never apologize. They're always right, and it's everyone else's fault. Just because there's, like, I don't know, dozens of people who have seen how abusive Harry and Meghan are, yelling and screaming at people. And I mean, imagine calling them again and again and again just to berate them. Yeah, Harry and Meghan are out of control, and I'm getting that with all these wands here. I'm getting wands, 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 wands. I mean, that's bullying, particularly reversed, but it's just that the wands are like, constantly going at someone and being inappropriate with your energy and your pushiness and your abusiveness to the point of abuse. So I am getting an abusive vibe here. And I'm also getting a very condescending, arrogant, globalist, vibe that Meghan gives off. Like, I am just, what? You don't like it? Okay, it's a little bit longer. That's Lulu. I don't know if you can hear. Yeah, she says hello. So yeah, so I'm getting a real arrogant, Hierophant vibe here from this as well. So she does not want Eight of Cups. The cups are the emotion. She doesn't want people being sympathetic to her former assistants that she harassed and harangued and abused. And again, it's a good thing that Jason Knauf is American, because Omid Scobie and Carolyn Durand were trying to play this off as, oh, it's just a cultural difference. That's all it was. Yeah, yeah. And in the long term, oh, what's Meghan going to do in the long term about this? I get Seven of Swords. So again, the idea of trickery, deceit. Meghan is going to do a song and dance here and try to deceive people about what really happened. So I would expect Meghan's going to come out and say, no, that person who said that's only saying that because, they were jealous of me, or she's going to come out with something to try to either, attack them secretly here. Or the Seven of Swords can be somebody like, going after, she may, because Meghan's going to go after these assistants, and that's another reason why it took so long for these assistants to come out, because they could see how Meghan, with her criminal connections like Christopher Bosey, how they've been, what they've done to people and scamming them and getting them deplatformed and stuff. So Meghan is going to go after them secretively with her Sussex Squad and whatnot, but also Meghan is going to try to lie about this and twist it around, no doubt with the help of Oprah or something. Yeah. She's going to try to twist this around and say, no, me and Harry were victims. It's a palace. It's that the courtiers, the men in gray, it's all their fault. They're evil and they were after us. And we had to run, right? So I'm getting justice, the social justice warrior thing, the Marxist communist BLM thing. So Meghan's got her communist comrades there, and she's going to be pulling the BLM social justice crap, and she's going to take a holier than thou, we commies know better than you, and we're always right, and we're going to cancel you, and you're a racist, and that's just that. And if you don't think you're racist, that means you're really especially racist, right? So all this is like part of Meghan's plot and plan with the globalists to be a disruption and to to be abusive and to try, destroy the West and destroy tradition, and at the same time, break the internet with her nonsense and her obnoxiousness. That was intentional from day one, and her and Harry are continuing it. And Harry is paranoid as it was, but Meghan, of course, making everything worse. So I see more lies and more tricks and games and things that she's going to be playing here in the near future. There's more to come for sure. She's definitely not over, but she is going to try to twist this into a story of a feminist princess, humanitarian that, was ambitious, and these big bad men at Buckingham Palace, they just thought ambition was a dirty word. Now look at this, look where I am now, so she's going to be trying to twist this around to her favor, and of course she's not going to take any responsibility, and etc., and she's going to continue her communist Marxist BLM nonsense with Oprah. Yep, that's what I'm seeing here. It's the end of it all. So she's going to push back. She's going to push back hard, bring her lawyers into it again, no doubt. She's already had her lawyers on it. She's threatening lawsuits and whatnot. But Meghan's pissed. But again, wants. She loves this kind of battle. This is what she loves to do. She doesn't want people getting emotional about it, though. She doesn't want to hear the sad stories of how these people, crying after afraid of Meghan and all this stuff. She doesn't want to hear about that. No emotion. Meghan can't deal with emotions. She has no emotions. So being sympathetic to these people and people sharing their stories, I think is very important. And how the trauma of working for an abusive boss, which I think many of us can relate to. How horrible that is, particularly when you're in a royal family setting where you have this you know this prestigious royal job. You want to keep it, obviously, and to be in such a difficult position where you're being abused like this by Harry and Meghan, and we know it's out of control because Harry swore at the Queen's own assistant, her own dresser there, right? Angela Kelly. So we know if Harry swore at her, we know that Harry and Meghan were no doubt extremely abusive towards the other staff. So yeah, so obvious from that alone. So yeah, but hopefully more of this comes out and more information and more exposure for this, because Meghan Markle is a bully and she does need to be exposed. So I'm glad this book is covering it. Yeah, before Harry and Meghan try to turn around and play the victim again with Harry's book, no doubt coming up. Yes. All right, so that is what I have for you today. Thank you all for listening. I hope you enjoyed this. If so, please like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Take care. Bye-bye.